to you who's in Hawaii. I'm looking at you on a cell phone and two cameras that could be used to make street photography being pointed at me to make a documentary record.
And if you were to just look at Joel's work, his best work, how would you describe his work? What stands out? What makes it unique?
Joel's work, one term that I apply to his work, and that is true of many street photographers, is that they're very athletic. That is to say, you can tell from the photograph that this person had an incredible kind of poise, an almost balletic ability to put himself in the place to get that picture. That things were moving very quickly on the street, and that he had the kind of coordination, physical coordination to begin with, as well as mental coordination to recognize that there's a picture there. And that was true of Cartier-Bresson, and it's been true of many other street photographers, although not all. Some street photographers are good because they take their time and really kind of force a picture. Winogrand, in some ways. Ouija is another example. But it's an ability. If you have an innate kind of perceptivity, ability to see things in a unique way, whether it's because you look at them slowly or you look at them very fast, that can be the crucial kind of innate, instinctive quality of your personality, of your character, that makes you a photographer, that tempts you to become a photographer.
Any good things to say about Bill Eggleston's?
Oh, yeah. Yes, and Bill Eggleston is someone who has a very different kind of intuition. There are very rare instances in my experience of his work where I feel he's been in a spontaneous situation and just popped it off. That has been out on the street with people he didn't know and in situations he wasn't used to, and took an original picture in that way. But he's also an example of the way in which any kind of a complex character, any kind of complex view of life can, in certain situations, be armed with a camera to respond to life. Bill Eggleston has a unique sensibility, and his photographs reflect it. And that's why those photographs are good.
Alex Webb.
But most of it is not really street photography. It's pictures of his friends and of familiar situations and familiar scenery to him.
How about Alex Webb's photographs?
Alex Webb, one of his pictures is on the cover of Bystander. It's a picture I like, and I think he's an important photographer, although I'll be honest with you, this was not my choice to put on the cover of the book. The picture you put on the cover of a photographic book, you usually have to leave it to the publisher, because they have an instinct for what picture to put on a book to get somebody to pick it up and see what's inside. I respect Webb's work, but it's not at the top of my list. He's in the kind of situations that he puts himself in, and I'm talking about as a news photographer. He's a member of Magnum, as I recall, and he's often photographed people in very dangerous situations, or ones that could become very volatile. And he's quite good at that, but his aesthetic is not the central one for me. The central one for me is one that is in a more relaxed, a situation with more equilibrium, perhaps, than the ones that he picks, or at least the way he makes them look in a photograph. And so there's a kind of equipoise that his photography becomes distinctive by violating, but that equipoise is what I like best, what I think is the kind of soul or heart of the best street photography.
He seems to be among younger photographers.
I don't think Alex Webb is so young. I don't think Alex Webb is so young anymore.
Among younger photographers.
Yeah.
They seem to kind of chase
His type of photographs?
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I look at a lot of street photography by, people now. I've been for the Art Center College of Design. I've judged for over a few years an annual street photography competition that they run. I don't see Alex Webb's sensibility as one that's more central to what's being done now than other ways of looking at the world. But again, I don't want to put Alex Webb down. I think his pictures are wonderful. They're not the center of my idea of photography.
Richard Sandler?
Don't know him.
Jeff
Mermelstein is, I think, a terrific street photographer. When Bystander was published in 1994, they had published, I forget how many copies, I think like 7,500 or something, and I thought, those people are nuts. They're not going to be able to sell that many of some book on an esoteric subject like street photography. But in fact, I was proven wrong. And they did so well with it that they decided to bring out a second edition that was the original edition plus new material that was being added in the year 2000. I wrote a whole new essay that was published as a postscript, and the new photography was put in the paperback edition. And Jeff Mermelstein was one of the discoveries that Joel and I had made. Again, it was usually Joel who brought somebody else's attention, somebody else's significance to my attention, because he was the one who was constantly being contacted by other photographers who wanted his advice or his help or just his opinion of their work. So Melanie Einzig, Mermelstein, and a few other photographers got into the book, the second edition in 2000, as a result of Joel's vigilance and my response to many of the people that he brought to my attention.
Jeff's work has evolved over the years, but it has kept that same humor, wouldn't you say?
I think so. He sends me pictures from time to time. As I recall, we put some more recent pictures in the new book. But he's someone, a street photographer has a very centered kind of not only personality, but often a particular kind of character. Character involves values of morals and things like that, whereas a personality is just how you respond to the world. And I think Mermelstein, he has the kind of sensibility to go the distance with it. I don't think he's needed to change. I think he finds the world new and interesting in different ways all the time, in a way that leaves, nevertheless, a trail of photographs that you could track and say, yes, this guy has a particular idea, and he's made a great deal of great work out of it.
Gary Winogrand's photographs?
What about him? What made him great was a combination of things. One was his, like all street photographers, his ability to be sensitive to be responsive to the kind of craziness, at least visual craziness, that everyday life in the street, everyday life in public presents. But the other thing about Winogrand was that he was very aggressive. That is to say, he had a personality that was very large. When he took a picture, often he, in the process of getting a candid scene, he disturbed the scene, I think, because of the fact that he was physically aggressive too. In the way that he took pictures. But, they're a real landmark, a real milestone on the history of photography. And he was a great photographer, and it's unfortunate that he died at a relatively young age. I think he still had a lot of great work in him.
And then up to Ouija, what made his photographs separate from the rest of the pack?
Well, a part of what made them different was that he had his vision, and especially his vision with the flash, was unique, and he created for himself a new niche in photojournalism. He was, the key photographer for some of the more sensational, the fold-out